Representatives from the Sweetwater Authority will make a presentation to the group regarding operational decisions at Loveland Reservoir. Following the special presentation by Sweetwater, the group will hear individual and group public comments. The group may make a recommendation on the feedback it receives. Mr. Quintero?
Steve Castaneda.
Steve Castaneda.
Mr. Quintero is back over there. I'll let you get started.
Perfect, perfect. And again, I want to, just for everybody who's come in the room, I want to make sure we have an opportunity for everybody to be heard. Sweetwater has been gracious enough to come out, give a presentation. At that time, we will move on to public comment, but I want to make sure everybody's very respectful. I don't have a mic in the room, so everybody who's speaking, I'd like you to speak up as much as you can, and everybody else, I'd like you to be respectful of everybody's ability to hear. So as much as we can keep down crosstalk, it probably make it a little bit easier to hear. And if you need to, if you're having trouble hearing, I'd recommend coming up into one of the closer seats. So, Mr. Castaneda?
Thank you, Chair Lyon. I really appreciate it. Again, thank you very much to the Alpine Planning Group, as well as the folks from Alpine that have come here tonight. I know there's been a lot of questions, there's a lot of concerns, and I think us coming here, and our General Manager, Carlos Quintero, is here. He is our top executive. We have folks from our communications. We have other environmental staff here that can ask or answer some of the more technical questions that I may not be able to answer. But I think that the fact that we're here in what would be probably not very friendly an environment, I think is testament to the fact is that we want to work with your community. You know, obviously we have a facility here, we need to operate that. We're a public agency, we depend on our customers to finance our operations and our, just our existence. And so this is what we have to do at this point, but we wanted to come out, we wanted to talk about some of the plans that we have to try to assuage or ameliorate some of the concerns that you might have. Again, my name is Steve Castaneda. I'm a director. I'm an elected director of the Sweetwater Authority. Basically, the Sweetwater Authority is a water agency that covers part of Chula Vista, the city of National City, the community of Bonita, and the community of Lincoln Acres. And so we have about 40,000 water meters. We serve about 200,000 citizens within our district, and we provide them with fresh potable water. And we do that with a couple of different ways. And in fact, we're very, very proud about our facilities and our organization because we are more diversified in terms of our the water that we sell to our customers than pretty much any other agency within San Diego County. Clearly, we have the Loveland Reservoir, which is a freshwater drinking reservoir.
And everybody, I ask everybody, please be respectful of the speakers. I want to make sure everybody's going to have an opportunity to speak without interruption. So that is a two-way street. So please.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, again, if you have concerns, if you would just wait till our presentation is over, and myself and our staff will answer whatever questions. We have Loveland. We also have the Sweetwater Lake, which we have a water treatment facility there, which we distribute to our customers. We also have a series of wells in western Chula Vista and National City, and we have a desalination plant that also is in National City, and we serve parts of western Chula Vista and National City with those facilities as well. There are times, and again, we've had to do this more than anybody that sits on the board, and clearly our staff as well, but we have to buy water from the County Water Authority. As any of you know, water's not cheap, and I do appreciate the fact that there are situations and strains on the groundwater aquifers, and so we can't overdraft those aquifers because the state will shut us down. I think anybody that's got a well kind of understands the regulations there. So I wanted to say that we wanted to come out here because we wanted to talk about how we move forward. Clearly, we have, and many parts of the state are now out of the drought. We are clearly very lucky and very fortunate that we've been able to get the rainwater and the amount of water back into Loveland and Sweetwater as well. to replenish the water supplies within both of those reservoirs. And so as that water level starts to rise, and again, right now with the rain, we are at 30% in Loveland, and we are at almost 70% in Sweetwater. And so we are expecting more rain. We're getting a lot of runoff now, and we're getting anywhere between 500 and 1,000 acre-feet of new water every single day that's coming from the runoff. So those water supplies are going to be replenished. Now, clearly, with the deluge of rain that we've gotten over the last couple of months, there's been significant erosion and problems that have occurred. I don't think that we're immune to any of the problems, because all you have to do is look at the news, and we have houses falling into the ocean, we have potholes all over the county, we have streets that are failing because of rain, because of the flows. So we are committed as a board, working with our staff. In this year's budget, we're going to spend, Carlos, is it $50,000 that we're going to spend to
look at repairs to the trail system.
to look at repairs to the trail system. Now, those dollars are our ratepayers' dollars. Our ratepayers that don't live anywhere around here, you're nodding your head, but you're not right. So I just want to tell you, there are ratepayers. Every dollar that is spent by the Sweetwater Authority comes from our ratepayers. Is anyone in here a ratepayer at Sweetwater Authority? I didn't think so. So the fact is that we're making that commitment on behalf of our ratepayers. So the bottom line is we're doing that, and we're also looking at fixing the fishing dock. So we are going to repair what's been done. We released water from Loveland. We didn't expect those facilities to be ruined. We didn't expect that. But the fact is that while some may disagree about the fact that we drained water out of Loveland, it was a good thing. Had we not done that, you have to realize the dam at Loveland is 85 years old. We are embarking upon a multi-million-dollar program to repair that dam. Sure, sir, you're shaking your head, but I don't think you really understand. We are being forced by the state of California to fix that. That again is, those costs are borne by the ratepayers of Sweetwater. And we're willing to do that. But the fact is, if you look at up and down the state, with all the rain we've gotten, there are emergency releases up and down the state. And so we are, I think, fortunate in that, we have the ability to run the water to Sweetwater. That water will not be wasted. It'll be used to the benefit of our ratepayers and our citizens. And the fact is that probably by the end of the rain season, Loveland is going to be probably at about 50% capacity, which basically will allow folks to enjoy the recreation and so forth. So we wanted to come here, and if there are any questions about, what our plans are, or, the environmental issues, we had Pete Framilano is here to talk about environmental issues, or there are concerns about that. But I can tell you, before we drafted Loveland, before we released, we talked to the Fish and Wildlife agencies, and we talked to CAL FIRE. And we received absolutely no concerns and no restrictions on what we were doing. So, there wasn't anything done in the middle of the night, and we didn't go behind anybody's back, and we played by the rules. So I just want to basically say that, we're here, we are committed to repair the erosion damage that was done by the rains, and we're here to try to restore the fishing program in the state that it was before, the rains basically created the disaster or the damage that it did. So, again, these are the things, but we also have to look at the reality. It's a freshwater reservoir. It's not a lake, it's not a fishing pond and everything, first and foremost. It is, and it's owned by the Sweetwater Authority, and so we have the right to drain that. We hope that we're going to get enough rain moving forward that we're not going to have to do it to that level. But the fact is, we've been releasing water from Loveland, not me personally, because I haven't been around that long, but our general manager has a chart. Since 1945, we've been releasing water from Loveland to replenish supplies of Sweetwater so it can be used by our customers. So I just wanted to make the record clear, And if there are any questions about, what we're planning to do with respect to the trails, with respect to the fishing dock and the parking lot and so forth, as I said, our general manager is here, and he can respond to those in terms of what's gonna be done by the district. So, thank you. And I'll certainly answer whatever questions I can.
Thank you so much. And so generally for like a special presentation, I'll budget up to 15 minutes. That's standard. Do you guys want to do additional presentation, or does that kind of cover the presentation? In what I would say is, if it does, we'll move to public comment, and then we'll have an opportunity for Q&A from the board.
No, I don't have any more.
I'll just, a couple of remarks. So, one point I want to touch upon is this reservoir, the dam was constructed in the mid-1940s, and it's been used as a water supply reservoir. That was the intent, that's why it was constructed. The water rights are owned by our ratepayers, Sweetwater Authority ratepayers. The chart that Director Castellano mentioned, I'll leave a copy with you, Madam Chair, but it really shows the cyclical nature of the reservoir. It gets full, it gets drained, it gets full, it gets drained. So the last time the reservoir was full, 2011. So we've gone 12 years really with a pretty significant drought. And this has been a phenomenon that you can see throughout the world. So had we drained the reservoir to the bottom, basically? No, we had not. But we were down to 4,000 acre-feet of water at Sweetwater Reservoir. We cannot use anything below 3,600. So we got 400 acre-feet of water left at Sweetwater Reservoir. That's about a 16-day supply, given the mix of water that we have. We supply about 50% of our water through groundwater. That's the maximum that we can produce, as Director Castellano mentioned. The other half needs to come from surface water. Now, this water, it's runoff. It doesn't get transported by any pipelines. It's all runoff. It's our cheapest water. We owe it to our customers to provide them with the cheapest water possible. Yes, we could buy water from the County Water Authority at $1,300 an acre foot, or we can get water from the reservoirs at $100 an acre foot. So if you think about the water that you get from your water provider, would you rather pay $100 or $1,300, right? So that is the reality that we have to deal with. We are obligated to provide the lowest cost, best quality water to our customers. So that explains the decision as to why we lower that level. Now, right now, with all this rain that you would think, yeah, there's a lot of rain. We're fortunate, we're certainly much better than we were 4 months ago, but the soil is so dry, and we're going through these cycles where the soil gets so dry that it just takes a lot of water. Right now, just to put things in perspective, we have 10,500 acre-feet of water at Loveland. That's about 40% full. We have about 19,300 acre-feet at Sweetwater Reservoir. That's about 70% full. The way it is now, we probably have enough water for about 2 years from Sweetwater Reservoir. So, no need to transfer water because it's not needed. Now, this drought continues, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, the story might be a little different. But if we get rain, then the water stays. We always said that the water, fishing, recreation is incidental to the availability of water. So that is what we have done. And I see Mr. Wall shaking his head, saying no. The water rights are owned by our ratepayers. There's nothing I can do about it. It's our ratepayers that own the water rights. So that is our main responsibility. So I just wanted to add that for the record, and that is my comments.
That's great, and obviously I appreciate it. You guys stick around. We're going to do public comment. We will have an opportunity for Q&A. Again, I want to make sure, I said it a couple times in the earlier one, but for the purposes of making sure people's questions were answered and we got through the issue so we could get to this one, I allowed it to go a little bit. I would ask to provide public comment, and if you have questions, list out those questions. The issue is if we go, generally it's not appropriate to engage in a back and forth Q&A during public comment. The group does have that opportunity to have questions for anybody or especially in this case, the group making a special presentation. So I'd like to, in an effort to respect everybody's time, make sure everybody has an opportunity to be heard. Everybody had the opportunity to make public comment, list out your questions. Hopefully we can get those answered. But I do want to go through a back and forth over that whole period. I'd like to focus the Q&A towards the end. The other thing I'm going to ask, just based on the size, can I get a show of hands who plans to make public comment? And I'd like you to keep them up just so I can get a rough idea. All right. I don't need to count the exact. The reason I'm looking at that is our bylaws outline for up to 3 minutes per speaker. If 30 people raise their hands, actually I'll say this, if 30 people raise their hands, I'd say we might have an hour and a half of public comment. If any more than that, we may make a recommendation to reduce public comment based on, again, making sure this is appropriate and everybody's time has an opportunity to be heard. If we have less than 20, I don't have any need to limit public comment or the time period. Basically what you do is you adjust the time period. And if you didn't raise your hand, you'll have an opportunity to speak anyways. I just wanted to get a rough idea if it was more or less than 30. So, to make this orderly again, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. I'll recognize you. What I'd like to do, again, in an effort to make sure everybody's heard, and the easiest way for your voice to be carried, if you're on this side of the room, I'd have you come up to roughly about where Mr. Castaneda is, or in that area, speak both to the group and to the public so everybody can be heard. If you're on this side of the room, just stand next to Mr. Milligan. It'll just allow your voice to be heard and get your public comment in. So. And if you'd like to grab a microphone, you're more than welcome, but I want you to speak up because I think that's going to be recorded for the camera, not necessarily for all of us.
Don't we want to try to repeat the comments down, not repeat the same comment?
And that's a fair comment. Again, we're all here on our own time. I'd just like, again, everybody to be respectful of everybody's time. Mike was making a point that I'll reiterate. Generally in these things, if you hear the first two speakers say one thing, trying to look for different points, but I'm not going to stop anybody and say, hey, I've already heard that, sit down. That's not what we're going to do. But just in the interest of everybody's time and being respectful, let's try to focus on new issues. So, again, I'm gonna call on you. If you raise your hand, I'll recognize you and I'll ask you to come up to one of the two sides and speak. And I'm going to go ahead and start right here. Andrew raised his hand. And then, again, get my attention. Go through. I am going to be the timekeeper. Just to give everybody equal opportunity. You'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. I'm not going to stop it. If you ask questions or you pause, that you're using up your time frame. So, all right. And then again, last time, you don't have to introduce yourself. That is up to you. You may introduce yourself. You may say where you live. That is always up to you. All right.
Thank you, sir. So my name is Andrew Hayes. I'm Senator Brian Jones' District Director. And I want to thank the group for having a meeting today. And I want to thank the district for being here and presenting. So I'm here today, just simply note, Senator Jones has gotten your emails. We've certainly heard from you, and that's why I'm here. And so I want to make sure that if you have questions about how a state agency can be involved in the process, that's what I'm here for. That's what our office is here for. We're an ombudsman for you. We ask questions. Sometimes we get answers that folks may not like, but we get answers, and we can get answers from a state agency. So there's numerous elements here. I've had lots of conversations with many of you. And so I'm here today. I know my name is on the back here as well of the sheet going around. So if you want to talk to me today, I'm here. So the senator's here. The other thing I have for you all today as well is if you would like to register your opinion or be on our list so that you can reach out to us, please fill this out. I've got clipboards for you. Sign up. That way you can say, hey, we'll follow up with you on the issue. That's what we're here for. That's what the senator is about. So if you have any questions for me, again, I'm Andrew Hayes, Senator Brian Jones, District Director. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start, by the way, passing over here.
Start here, and then, ma'am, I saw your hand raised. I'll come down.
My name is is John Francois. I'm a 30-plus year resident of Alpine. I did 32 years with CAL FIRE. When I retired with CAL FIRE as the chief of aviation. I'll tell you right now, Loveland is a critical piece of infrastructure out here for our fire protection for our aircraft. I'm not talking air tanks. I'm talking about the sky cranes that SDG&E had to provide to us because of the Southwest Power Link, the Sunrise Power Link. That aircraft, 2,500 gallons of water per drop when it's using Loveland on the Valley Fire. Kept that fire from taking out a lot more houses in the community of Lyons Valley and Humboldt. Let's go back to fire history. Laguna Fire came right through where Loveland's at. It ended up going to where your ratepayers are. You talked about your ratepayers. All these fires out here, ask the people in Scripps Ranch, that fire in Julian didn't go into their house. It's a matter of time for a fire in Alpine goes into Chula Vista, goes into Bonita. The Harris fire got really close. A lot of fires in Humboldt down Proctor Valley head that way. What you don't understand is most of the fires out here, because of our aviation assets, are less than 10 acres. So you never hear about them. Your ratepayers never hear about them. We hear about them because there's an evacuation going on, or we're using those aircraft to keep that fire in check. When you shrink that surface area of that lake, I can only get maybe 2 or 3 helicopters in a daisy chain to start working that fire. We can work 5 or 6 sky cranes. We can bunch of Hueys. The Sheriff's Department has 3 Hueys, tank ships to work reservoirs just like that. I heard you mention CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE doesn't make comments on public water use like that. That land is federal land, U.S. Forest Service. Not CAL FIRE beak out there, it's Forest Service. We do not make public policy on water use. If there's water being used, we're going to, during a fire, we can use anybody's water. And especially out here with the ranchers, if the ranchers said, hey, we need some water replaced, they talk to the IC, usually we'll get water tenders and refill their stock ponds. What you're doing now is you're draining water down to Sweetwater. You talk about the age of Loveland's dam, I guarantee you Sweetwater's dam is the same age as Loveland's. You have to have one to do the other, right?
We're doing both.
We can do both, but still, right now, what you guys are doing in a court of public opinion someday when that fire, it's going to be a matter of when. It's not if, it's when that fire's going to come from Alpine into your ratepayers. We're going to go, we told them we couldn't get enough water on that initial attack. That 10-acre fire we could have picked up is now 20,000 acres. We've lost lives. Every major fire we had in San Diego, we've lost lives. And unfortunately, you probably don't know this, San Diego County has the most wildland firefighter deaths anywhere in the country. Anywhere in the country, do the research.
Sir, we're at 3 minutes, or would you like to?
That's it. I'm just giving my 2 cents as a CAL FIRE aviation guy.
Can you have the people with kids go first, please? Is that possible for you to
Oh,
let
yeah,
people with
yeah,
kids
yeah.
go first? People with kids? Or
Yeah, so is anybody with kids who wants to be able to get home?
maybe they
get
want to
on
go
the-
home, I don't know.
Yeah, anything to get out of homework. All right. Ma'am, I saw you raise your hand. I'll go ahead.
This gentleman addressed my concerns brilliantly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And again, I'm going to ask you guys if you're going to come up and speak, pick one side or the other, and then stay on the other side just so I can get your attention. I want to give you a little wave when you're coming up on the last 15 seconds so you have an opportunity to close out. So, see your hand? You go ahead and come up.
My name is David Thomas. I've been a resident of Alpine for 52 years. I grew up getting to go to Loveland and fish. I started fishing in Loveland when I was 8 years old. We had the government code, so we would get to go down there and fish. And in 52 years, they never, ever did this to our lake. Ever. I've never seen our lake done this. And why they wouldn't have a transparency to show us what happened when they did this. Why they didn't show us the amount of dead fish that we saw floating in that lake every single day. They dug pits and they buried the fish that were in that lake, and they're gone. They're dead. There's very few anything living in that lake. There was never a reason in all the years to ever bring it down to a dead pool. We had minimum pool The lake survived every time you took it to a minimum pool. It was in minimum pool at this time. There was no reason to do what they did. They killed this lake because they wanted to kill some other things like the fishing program. They received a whole bunch of land in a land swap that we made happen so that we could have the east end to fish. And they got a whole lot of money and a whole lot of things out of this, and they mismanaged it heavily. They mismanaged a lot of things like the amount of water that they should be making. And they've taken money from the state of California and they've misused it. They've lied to us over and over again. During all of COVID, they kept that lake closed. That lake was the only place that we should have been. There's never been anybody close to each other, but they closed it, and we fought hard to keep it open, and they continued to find reasons to close it. All the years that I was first going there, Steve Parker ran that, and it was never needed, all these employees and all these things, and they lied. They've lied to us over and over again about so many things. And they stand here tonight and they look at you like they're doing something good, and they've not done anything good for any of us, including me, and they've taken away a real precious resource, and those fish will never be back when you killed them. Thanks.
Middle row, yeah, sir. And again, I appreciate everybody being respectful, and I'm going to ask everybody to do the same. Give everybody the opportunity to speak, and also be aware. The only thing I will give a heads up, obviously these are things people are passionate about. I don't think we had any problem yet, but I want to head it off, make sure obviously the language is all right. We have kids in the audience too, so. Your church?
I'm Warner Ruckabear. I've been a resident a long time here. And my problem is, we all agree that this was a reservoir. Its purpose is to send the water down. I get it. I respect that. But why would you kill the golden goose? Oh my gosh, he took it to nothing, practically speaking. The gentleman is totally right. My daughter goes down there, it's just death down there. She's all kinds of bones and things. You murdered it. Why didn't you leave? Take 2/3 of the water. Take some of it. That's its job. But instead, you took it all. That's it.
Hi, I'm Karen Wood. I live in Alpine. I live east of Loveland on Hoptoll Road. I pass it every day. And I'm a licensed real estate agent. I know a little bit about easements. And the whole reason that this agency owns that piece of land is because of an easement. It's a fishing easement. It's been there. It's the only reason they own it. So in 2020, they hired an outside consultant. And this consultant told them they could save a lot of money if they drained Loveland to dead pool level. And they, at 2021, they drained it some, see if anybody puts up a fuss. No one did. 2022, they drained it to dead pool in November. This easement is for shoreline, I'm reading directly from the easement, access to shoreline of Loveland Reservoir for shoreline fishing from sunrise to sunset.
Right.
There can be no shoreline without the water. There can be no fish without the water. So the agency does not own this piece of land outright. It's encumbered. It's encumbered by the easement, and you have to respect that easement. The easement is not secondary to your ratepayers. It runs concurrent, and you have to balance. And I'm going to read something from their website. This really struck me as quite ironic. Their web page says, Sweetwater Authority develops carefully planned projects and conducts our vital water operations in a manner that is considerate to the environment and supports the authority's mission of having a balanced approach to human and environmental needs. For more than 50 years, that minimum pool has been respected until now. They did not have to drain Loveland the way they did. They've admitted themselves they have other ways to get that water. They chose not to. They have not been a good steward of this piece of land. They have not been a good neighbor to Alpine. They talked the talk to get that piece of land. Now they need to walk the walk. They need to fix this damage. They need to reopen Loveland, and they need to stop the draining to Deadpool.
My name is Brian Lorenz. I live down the hill at Pasatiempo and in Rancho San Diego. So I have some questions that I guess you can relay. Do we know how long, approximately how many years it will take through natural means to refill and replenish the reservoir? Another question, they own the water that's in the reservoir? I'm assuming, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, that they also own the sand underneath the reservoir that could be used for aggregate. So the comment then is the timing is dubious in relation to the proposed Cottonwood sand mine. And at some point, every aspect of communication for this project, as well as the sand mine and the developer there, will be looked at and scrutinized. So we may not know why they drained it to Deadpool, but they're a lot closer to a very, very precious resource. Thank you.
Following up on sand mine is a good place for me to get in here today. We understand that they have to have their talking points here, but real quickly, I've done about 60 public records checks at Sweetwater Authority on all the topics that they've talked about and everything most everything we're going to talk about tonight. Their contractor said that they can fix the dam with water in the lake. Their contractor is GEI. And they did not drain the lake because of drought either, because they have an oversupply of water, generally speaking, maybe not last year, but generally speaking, right now they have an oversupply of water. This is a big problem for them. Part of the reason they have an oversupply of water is because we gave them a $31.5 million grant to build a desalination plant expansion that put them in this position. And what they did when they got this desalination plant, and we're not going to nail the sand mining exactly. We're probably going to hit around the edges on a little bit. But Steve Castaneda is in the newspaper in 2019 saying his new plan with the chairman of the board is to sand mine Loveland Reservoir and Sweetwater Reservoir. And it's in 2019, David Hernandez, Sweetwater Eyes sand mining at Loveland Reservoir. That has driven this policy from then on. They want to take the lake hostage. They want to use, they can't do sand mining as it stands right now in Loveland. But they want to cannibalize Loveland Reservoir at will when they want to top off Sweetwater Reservoir for dredging because their explorations taught them that they needed to dredge, they couldn't take the water out and dredge. And that is what's pushing every single bit of this. And it's all an excuse from there. So, the drought, the desalination plant gave them water security, and the increase in height of the San Vicente Dam. So they just said, well, too bad for the people in Alpine. Good for us. $325 million his partner in sand mining thought that they would get from these two reservoirs at the start. It's down to less than 100 now. Their consultants are telling them it's not going to work over and over and over again, but they push. They took Loveland Reservoir to prove they could. It's the number one reason. Prove they could. And that's it.
Steve Hales, I'm a resident of Alpine, been here for about 10 years now. I absolutely love the place. I would like to thank you guys for coming out today. It's tough, you know, you're getting a lot of flack. So that is appreciated. I think it does demonstrate at least somewhat of a willingness to work with us. You know, the way I'm envisioning this, I like to see just a win-win-win approach to this. Win for the environment, win for the animals, win for the people of Alpine, and a win for the Sweetwater Authority and your customers. I think that's doable, but I think you need to work with us a little bit more, and I think you need to maybe listen to our concerns before the lake gets drained rather than afterwards. We've had a lot of droughts in California and San Diego. The 1990s drought was I think worse than this past one, and then the 2010s we had a pretty bad one, and of course this recent one. To my knowledge, from what I'm hearing, it's never been drained down to dead pool before, and the difference between dead pool and minimal pool is just disastrous for the environment and for the animals there. In my opinion, it seems that the cost benefit just isn't there to drain that. And I wonder that the money that you're saving for your clients, for your customers, how does that compare to the money it's going to take to restore the lake, restore the hiking trails, restore the picnic area and everything else? To me, the cost benefit, not to mention just the moral authority of killing all the animals that depend on that lake. I'm just not seeing, I'm just wondering what kind of analysis you've done of that. So, thank you.
Oh, thank you guys for coming out. I can't speak that I've been out here at Alpine for many years. I'm a disabled vet, been fishing Alpine for 5 years. You said you've been in contact with DFG, you let them people know. Hey, DFG is blowing me off. They won't talk to me. I just got some recommendations. You knew you was going to go to Deadpool. You drained it down to just where the floats are for fishing. Drain one. Okay, you did not even bother to move the buoy line down further to give more access to fishing. And your guys come up in the boat and talk to me and make sure that I'm not taking too many fish now. But did you work with, you knew you was going to drain it, did you work with DFG to open up the creel limits, or did you guys even do research? I know the answer, but did you do research to shock the fish, to bring them to the top, and relocate? You're spending all this money to reopen the trails and all this, but you're going to shock those fish who took them down to Sweetwater or offered them up to other reservoirs for replanting. Those fish now, we know what happened to them. They did not survive. Can't really say enough about, you're going to see a lot of my comments on your Facebook, Twitter, and everything else. And it's not going to stop. And DFG is going to get a visit this week from me too. Because they're going to have to answer why they can't even come back to me and answer what the input was. I heard in the background because they laid the phone down. That's, you always put it on mute. Remember, that's number one. So now I enjoyed one little bit of peace. What's going to be left of me to be able to go down there. It was a very peaceful reservoir to fish. It's not like Jennings or Cuyamac or anything else. It was like a piece of home. Going back here, you don't have people chatting in your ear. People respectfully at distances, catching fish and stuff. Yeah, we know about the water, we get it. But draining it down to this. Good drone footage, whoever did it. Damn good drone footage, because now we know the truth. And I did a lot of emails, I'm getting the same boilerplate comments from your office. Tell the people the truth. You know, that's all we're asking, just the truth. If you're going to sand mine it, boom, just put it out there and say you're going to sand mine it. If you're never going to take us down to zero pool again, zero pool again. Just tell the truth. That's all we're asking.
Hi, my name is Kim Hale. I'm also a resident here in Alpine. I'm also biology faculty and currently serving as the Dean of Math Science and Engineering Department at our local college. Travis, I really appreciate you trying to maintain the respect in the room. However, I did not find it respectful for you two to point out when people were nodding their heads and disagreeing with you and saying it was because they don't understand. That's just not respectful at all. And I think that's part of the issue. what's been happening here. Your ratepayers, maybe they own the water rights, but the resource is coming from our backyard, okay? And causing environmental damage in our backyard is just not respectful. The minimum pool, maintaining that, the original Sweetwater Water Authority, when they did that in the, not the original, but when they did that back in the mid-90s, that minimum pool was not about just providing fishing to the residents here to make people happy. Okay, that fishing program was an indicator of the health of the environment. Because if you can keep drawing fish from the lake, that means that the environment is providing the resource, and the resource that you want is the water.
Yes.
Okay, so at minimum pool, the cattails line the shoreline, and those cattails provide stability to that shoreline. You mentioned the drying soil around it, and it's getting more and more dry. Just even above minimum pool, a lot of invasive plants are coming in. It's all mustard and horsetail, which sops up water and takes away the water, causing this dry area. Maintaining that minimum pool, those cattails can help stabilize the land around it. And so, Manager Quintero, you mentioned in the article that the Alpine Sun did, had we known about the rain coming, things would have been a bit different. But that's exactly it. Seasonal rain is getting harder to predict within these current climate conditions. And so that's why it's important to just have a plan and stick to the plan, right? So I just want to know, will Sweetwater Authority be reaffirming the commitment to minimum pool? And will you be drafting a restoration plan to reverse the damage done to the riparian system that supports so many species in the area?
Hi, my name's Elisa Peskin. I'm a 23-year resident of Papatul in Alpine, so I drive by Loveland Reservoir several times a day. And I know everybody's, especially the fishermen in here, with all due respect, talking about the fish, but I don't think that most people realize the biodiversity. So touching on what Kim just said, the biodiversity in the Cleveland National Forest is probably one of the richest biodiversities in the entire state of California. We have everything from possums, badgers, coyotes, mountain lions, mule deer. We have shorebirds that come to Loveland Reservoir, the egrets. We have red-tailed hawks, a whole smattering of, we even have osprey. We even have now bald eagles that are coming to Weemac Lake and to Lake Jennings, and it's only a matter of time until now that we see bald eagles in Alpine. So it leaves me to question how this was done without any environmental impact reports, which is, as we just learned with development, is critical in San Diego. How there was no public notice, which, as we just learned from the county, is critical and paramount in San Diego for those notices to be presented. And we keep going back to the ratepayers. The ratepayers, we're doing this on behalf of the ratepayers. But if their commitment in their mission statement is about the environment and protecting and conserving, in the 23 years I've been here, I've never seen this reservoir drain to where it is now. So how, like Kim said, what is the plan for restoration, habitat restoration, to mitigate the damage that's already been done to the environment? The fire, we're lucky, and I feel like this is a CYA, now we have all this water that's restoring the reservoir. When that was done in November, there was nobody's prediction that we were going to have the kind of rainfall. So what about the environmental devastation that would have been caused if that reservoir was left completely drained and we hadn't had the rainfall? We were in another drought year. What would the plan have been then to mitigate the damage?
You're a speaker?
You're good. Speak,
Yep.
back here. My name's Misty Lewis.
Yes, come up front. Go
My
name's Misty Lewis. I've lived out here since 1994. I live off the Hapertool and Carbaker. When I moved out here, Loveland was full all the way to the bridge to Hapertool Road. It was like a lake, and then it went around the corner to the reservoir where they fished. And it was beautiful, and I did not know that anyone was going to be draining that. Eventually, that full lake part got drained, but they kept the other part, and I never really understood why they drained it to begin with. That lake saved our community in 2020. My house almost burned down. That fire started at my neighbor's and came right up the road. It was the scariest thing on earth, and if it wasn't for my neighbors who came to my home and used my well until the power went out, and then Astria coming and getting water from Loveland, we would have lost every house up on Carbaker. There are over 100 homes up there. They stopped that fire there. I mean, it still went, but it could have been so much worse. We're in a time of the most rain in the entire time I think I've lived in this community. I don't know how you can use all that water. Where did it all go with all the water that we've had? I don't think your people that are buying the water in Chula Vista, Otay, Eastlake would be really happy if they saw what you were doing to our community. Those are our neighbors. And you know what? I believe you're both elected officials. And you stand there with smug looks on your face.
Yes.
And you just act like we are a bunch of country bumpkins, which we are not. You roll your eyes, you smirk.
Well, you're accusing me. You're accusing me.
Don't give him an excuse to leave. Don't give him an excuse to leave. No. He's looking for an excuse to leave, Travis. He's looking for an excuse to leave. He tries this stuff. Have the woman sit down. Have the woman sit down. He's looking for an excuse to leave.
Like I mentioned, we're obviously passionate.
He gets scared easily.
I want to have respect. I want to have an opportunity for Q&A. And a lot of people have asked Q&A. And I'd like to have a conversation. I understand going.
I'm treating him the way you treated all of us.
That's the meeting process. No, he's looking for excuse to leave. He did this before.
I totally understand. And I don't want Mr. Castaneda, I'll ensure, what I'm gonna ask everybody is, I think everybody wants a little bit of respect, personal space, and I wanna make sure we're not standing here pointing fingers. We wanna ask questions. If you give me an opportunity, I promise I'll at least hold that decorum.
People should understand that we don't have to be here, right?
I understand, and I want the opportunity to ask some questions, give you an opportunity to give us an answer. Please, thank you. Here, again, I understand, and I want to ask everybody, both our representatives from Sweetwater and the members of the public, let's try to be respectful. Let's make sure, beyond even our verbal communications, our physical communications, make sure we're not feeling threatened. We want to be respectful. I'm going to ask everybody to do that. I am also going to ask speakers to speak from over here, just so we can get through this meeting. Because I've been taking notes. I want to ask some of these questions. I want to have this opportunity to hear them. I think that's important. So, next speaker.
Good job,
Yep.
Travis.
From right up over here, if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, I'm talking to you. No, it's not
Me?
you.
Yeah.
I want you on the
Yeah,
other
but
side.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here. We do appreciate it. So my name is Matthew. I'm a newer resident of Hamul, so don't hold that against me. Okay. I'm basically the closest property to Loveland Reservoir. I actually share two 40-acre boundaries with them. I personally every day see the devastation. They can show their charts all they want. Can we have a copy of those charts? I would love it if we could get that. But I know for a fact that they've never drained it to the levels that they've drained it. And touching sort of on a few things that people have touched tonight, everybody has probably seen the million of Stop the Cottonwood Sand Mines. I personally believe that all of this is tied to them wanting to sand mine. I have documents dating all the way back to the 80s to where they've been scheming about how they can sand mine. They're saying that they're transferring the water to save their ratepayers money, but if we have a glass of water here, that's this much surface, right? Or we have a plate of water here, what do you think is going to evaporate quicker, right? So Sweetwater basically is the plate, Loveland is the cup. So they're claiming that they're basically saving their ratepayers' water, but actually, if they stored it here and just did the normal transfers, look, I have the best view of Loveland of anybody here, okay? I was planning on building my house looking at it until I learned that they're literally trying to sand mine. I personally know people who actually work for their company, and I know that they have ties to Mexican sand mine companies, and this is a long time scheme. Also, if there's no water in Loveland to transfer, well, you've heard of Cottonwood. Where does the water go through? Okay? So if they're not transferring the water through there, then that sand mine can go through, and then they can say that they love that the water came, but they're not happy that the water came. I personally don't believe that. I've called many times. I've talked to their public affairs officer. All they do is obfuscate. They will not answer any questions. Everything is up for... They literally recite what I heard verbatim on their KUSI little interview. They are not open. They do not post their board minute meetings in a timely manner. They do not post their board minutes on the website because they don't approve them. Okay? And so I believe that this is all tied. For 5 to 10 years, they've been saying that they need to drain the reservoir so that they can fix the dam because the dam is in repair. But so is Sweetwater. That's just as old. And so my fear is that this is going to fill back up, but it's only going to be a matter of time. That's why they use the drought, right, this time to drain it. So when they drain it next time, it's going to be, we need to fix the dam. And then they're going to do their environment. They killed all the fish now. So now they're going to do the environmental review. Where's the fish? There's no animals. There's nothing. Oh, go ahead, sand mine. Sell it down to Mexico. Okay? So we need to all work together. Thank you so much, everybody.
I'm going to leave the list of sand mining contractors on the end of this table.
Do we have any other public comment? Aye.
Go, girl.
Hi, I'm Carly, and we need to save the lake just because, and they think that they can kill the animals, but animals are human beings too. You wouldn't want anybody coming up and just killing your land, so when all the fish are dead, there's not going to be any animals left. I don't know. Thank you.
How you doing, folks? I'm Brett Peterson. I've been here about 32 years. I've been fishing the lake for about as long as I lived here, along with taking my kids down and enjoying times and hiking. My wife was on bird watches. So, I mean, we've enjoyed the lake for a long, long time. Try not to go on weekends. I'm retired now, so I love the weekdays. And there's not as many people as there's on a crowded week. The idea that taking it down to, it was kind of already at a limited pool where it was when the dock dried up. So, I mean, it would have been nice, the water came in, the dock floated, and the fishing would come back and people would have the dock. The dock unfortunately got destroyed, but you said you're going to fix it, so that's a really good thing. One of the things that, you know, with the river that ran through there, it's kind of like this, so I'll have to come up with some way to kind of slough it down where people can walk down without wiping themselves out. But in fish, I mean, like the gentleman behind me, I mean, I've been fishing all my life. I'm an avid outdoorsman. So when the fish gets down like that, we've lost millions and millions of fish. Either they got shot out, they ended up on the Indian reservation down below dying in the little ponds and creeks, or what was in there, quite a lot died because it's not oxygen. So one of the problems is when you guys restock it, you're going to have to come up with a good plan to restock because the lake's probably down to about 1% of fish. And that's probably mostly carp and catfish that can live through hell. And the other fish in here that people like to catch, they die. They can't handle it. So my thoughts is shock them from, you know, because a lot of fish may have made it down to Sweetwater. Use that as your stocking program. Use that to get the shad, the shiners, the bluegill, the bass, the catfish, the crappie. You kill the carp, I don't care. They're a disaster anyway. They're not people, not cars. So anyway, that's just the thought of being able to restock. You have a big lake, it's got a lot of surface. Fishing game, shame on them. They should have volunteered to do shocking and moving, even if they were just shocking and moving the fish and transporting them using available trucks and just putting them over in Sweetwater, where people can fish for them there and then bringing them back when the water level came back up. So that's just my thought, throwing some things in there. Doesn't have to cost you a ton to restock, because you can restock from your other lake. So that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
What's the plan? There's a big elephant in the room, and I heard your opening remarks. I don't hear your plan. Are you going to structurally maintain this? You're getting some money. How long will those structural repairs extend the life? We've already heard maybe there's an alternative reason for all of this. Are you really going to restore the dam structurally so that it has a life going into the future? How much money is being spent on that is my first question. My second question is, what's the plan down the road? The gentleman touched a little bit on that analogy. I loved it. You've got a reservoir that feeds another reservoir. When that dries up, you have no, if we lose the structural capability of that reservoir due to it being dry and neglected, then we don't have a feeding mechanism to save your ratepayers in Chula Vista all that money anymore. So what's the plan? Are you committed, is my question to you. I hear something different. Are you committed with your money for the trails, with your money to structurally maintain the reservoir? Are you committing to the future? Will you tell us how long that commitment is so we know it doesn't go away? Because once it goes away, there ain't no reversing it. And I live downstream. My gosh, I can't tell you. Keystone species are existing there that are dependent on other species for the whole habitat and ecosystem to survive. When one of those goes, the gophers, the rodents, the possum, whatever it is, you're going to lose those beautiful red tails, the ospreys, and all the egrets I see flying in from the shore. That's coming. I once watched a blue heron on my property that was brought in by the water. And he sat there and stalked a gopher. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world, and I have it on film. It goes away. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Colin Tassio. I've been here in Alpine for about 22 years now. Raised our 3 children here. I'm proud to say Alpine's my home. I love living here. I know that Alpine is not in your service area, but I think you can see that the decisions you guys make does affect this community. And I appreciate that you're here along with everybody else in the crowd to have these questions and for you to hear our concerns. My question is related to some of the stuff I saw on your website. According to your mission statement that you have, it says it's the mission of the Sweetwater Authority to provide its current and future customers with a safe and reliable water supply through the use of the best available technology, sound management practices, public participation, and a balanced approach to human and environmental needs. So my question for you is that during the 1996 land swap, Sweetwater Authority committed to protecting existing rights as part of that land swap. And this included access to fish and hike. And Deadpool has basically obliterated the shoreline fishing and hiking access. So my question is, how does draining the reservoir to Deadpool honor your stated mission to balance human and environmental needs when it has caused such devastation and loss of access to the reservoir. Thank you.
Related comment on recreational access. My name is John Allen. I'm a volunteer on the California Hiking and Riding Trail, which has easement, real estate agent. Previously mentioned some of the legalities in that. That parking lot and the other parking lot that's been closed for a long time, both have Sweetwater locks in them. That's the only safe access for the road bikers riding the Grand Loop. This is a big deal in that area. It's the only safe parking for them, and they use the restrooms. It's safe water quality. We have a lot of people using that porta potty. And I've been out there working in CHRT. It's in good shape. There's a reference on the website regarding the lack of maintenance on the CHRT. The CHRT is ready to ride, hike, bike, and enjoy. We still have hiking access, but we can't park it through that a lot. The hiking trails in the reservoir at Loveland were never completed, frankly. You had the aluminum float. You have pedestrian access to a trailhead. There were some trails that were cut off of that. We sometimes refer to as the bridge to nowhere. That bridge had trails. They're there. I volunteered to help recut. I'll be happy to continue to work with you guys on reestablishing those trails. It won't cost $50,000. Give me 5 afternoons after work, 2 hours each. Your trails are good to go. Also get you ADA access off the easement road, so you can complete the ADA under the HUD plan. The bridge that was supposed to go, the second bridge that was supposed to go to the dock, was never even installed. All that HUD funding was about what you're promising to put back into assessing the revenue trails. The water level, as it rises back to the middle of the pool, will abate the hazard on the bluffs. At this time, one of the 3 barricades that's at the gate could abate that hazard in the trail. The upland trails are ready to go. The parking lot is there for bird watching and Tai Chi, as well as hiking and fishing. We look forward to working with you to restore recreational access to the safe upland areas as quickly as possible. I'd be happy to collaborate. Thank you.
I'm Candy again.
Candy, will you come over and speak? Will you come on this side and speak? Yeah, is that all right? Thank you.
I lived here for 40 years. The old fishing trail used to be right in front of my house. I know about all the land swaps. I know there was a deal made that should be to the hikers and the fishermen and all that stuff. They should have access there. That's a public access down to the lake. So they should be allowed to fish. You need to fix it up. Steve Harper did a great job running it. There was never a problem for all those years I knew him. It gets me so mad I can't even talk. And then another thing I heard was you're not allowed to lower the water that low. It's great. Sell all the water you want. Leave the water for the people that you guys promised the shoreline to and all that. But I heard if the aqueduct goes to crap or something and you have that drain, then your people don't have any water. They'll be asking us for our well water. I mean, that's just sucky. And then, you know, I live right there in front of the damn pond, whatever it is now, dry lake bed. There's birds flying around that used to you be able to see them carrying fish in their mouth and stuff. So where are those birds getting their food now? I guess they're going to El Cap, but I heard they're draining El Cap too because they don't want to fix their dam. Lake Murray's draining their water too. So it's like a man-made drought. Board meetings or whatever you do with your conference down here full of money.
While you have public comment, but I want to make sure it's structured on issues related to operations and in-person. Totally understand, totally understand, but I want to make sure you keep it respectful and not.
I have tried to be respectful. It is. I just think you need to open it up to the people. I'm not a fisherman, I'm not a hiker, but it's their right to that level.
Have financial problems instead of looking at
Speak up, please.
as a detriment. They have found ways to enhance recreation and get revenues for the district. For example, out at Lake Jennings, they built cabins, like new rentals, campgrounds, some of them have winter programs, other kinds of things, tugboats, and rock climbing walls and stuff, and water storage parks out there. So like, why doesn't your district do something like that if there's such a money issue, rather than, pursuing what we've done, which obviously is harmful to so many people out here? I understand this is, concerns about the finances of the line, but maybe that's another option that could be looked at, rather than always get that.
We're gonna have a lot of questions here, and I'm trying to have a family at home.
I totally understand, and I'm hoping, I think we're getting close to the end, and I want to go over, but I appreciate it. Any other public comment? All right. And again, I want to make sure everybody understands, be respectful with everybody's time. If we end this with us just speaking, and we don't hear from, at least have the opportunity to ask some more questions, that'll be the end of the time. So I do want to make sure we keep that in mind as we're going through, not asking anybody to stop. So we do public comments.
Will we be able to hear a few answers?
No. To be honest, they're not bound to be here, so it's at their convenience and pleasure of coming out here and speaking with us. So that's why I mentioned, I think Mike mentioned at the beginning of this, repeating the same issues isn't going to be getting us any closer to hearing answers. And I do mean it. I think these should be directed to issues related to the operations. Any type of attacks generally aren't going to invite our guests to stay any much longer. So I'm going to go ahead. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Good evening. My name is Carolyn McGavick, and first of all, I just want to give you a very heartfelt thank you for being here tonight and showing up for this meeting and expressing your interest in the reservoir. You know, we are all in this together. I mean, we're all residents of San Diego County, and so I thank you for being here and being open to the dialogue. And just to remind everyone, all of the Sweetwater board meetings are public and recorded, and so you can keep up with the activities of the Sweetwater Authority. And we all know that conflict is a part of life. You cannot get through life without conflict. We're just in a position of a very natural outcome of a human being's life. We're in a place of conflict, but that doesn't mean that it's disrespectful. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. But one rule when you're trying to settle a conflict is to be respectful and honest and accountable for your actions. That is the ground rule for resolving conflict. So I really appreciate you saying that you wanted to work with us, just as the authority worked with us when your ratepayers gained the rights that you have right now. Those rights came with responsibilities, and there has never been any release from those responsibilities until the current board decided we have all the rights. We don't have responsibilities anymore. That your actions gave me that message, certainly. And it's true. I don't think anybody in this room wants your ratepayers to have skyrocketing water bills. We're all neighbors. We're all residents of the county. But if we look at your own numbers, you think about it. Maybe somebody has a calculator to help me. 200,000 ratepayers. $6 million, a one-time $6 million grant. How much money did the ratepayers get? 6 million divided by 200,000?
$30.
$30. $30 savings over 6 months in exchange for draining it's your figures, draining the reservoir to bare earth. Now, when you leave that bare earth, that's where the erosion came from.
Respectful of
that is totally fair. I thank you. That is totally fair. So all I want to say is, yes, we want to work with you, but we need that respectful dialogue, acknowledging the facts, and thank you for paying what you broke. I appreciate that.
Any other public comment? All right. Last one. Come on over here. want to get an opportunity so we get to answer your question. Come on over here. If you want to address it. I'm just going to ask if you want to decide to do it. Thank you.
I've lived in Alpine for about 25 years now. You know, from the business standpoint, I have a little business too, but from the business standpoint, I understand you have an obligation to your ratepayers. But I think you also have an obligation to the entire community. I think it's bigger than just Alpine and your customers. I think there's California drought, there's gonna be another one, we all know this. I think we should be building reservoirs, not destroying them. And that's a really good term for what you guys have done. I see it firsthand on a daily basis. I don't know if there's an ulterior motive like sand mining, but if you take all the natural resources besides the air that we're currently breathing, I can't think of a more important one than water. And if your customers are out of water, I'm sure they'd rather have that than a cup of sand, okay? If that's an ulterior motive. I don't know. I don't go fishing there, but I think your ratepayers are welcome. I think everybody in this community would welcome them. I think the fire, just the right thing to do is to restore that. You've heard a lot of these people call it a lake. I call it a lake. It is a lake, okay? There's only so much is going to run in and so much is going to run out. So once you take it and destroy it, then you don't have the ability to store it or keep it there anymore. If it's half full, if it's all full, if it's dead pool level, at least there's you're not going to get any more out of it. You might as well leave it beautiful and usable for the entire community. And again, including your ratepayers.
Thank you.
Unless we have other public comment, I'll go ahead and bring it up for the board. We'll be able to ask some questions, get some feedback. Last chance. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up for public comment. First of all,
we got about half an hour.
that's a problem. I really appreciate you guys saying. I want to start off real quick because I don't want to waste our time. I want to say thank you for everybody being respectful. I really appreciate the public comment, staying respectful and staying on issue. And to representatives from Sweetwater, I appreciate you sticking around. I know this is coming out of your time tonight, just like all of ours, and I appreciate you doing this. And so I want to start. I'll let the group start asking questions. I have notes of some of the questions we asked. Mike.
Yes, I was concerned, are you not under some kind of purview control of the federal government as well as the Fish and Wildlife? Corps of Engineers?
Sir, we have our our environmental.
He's our biologist, Pete Fomalaris, our biologist, so he'll be able to.
And real quick, Mike, let me help because I want to make sure we get through this. So I will jump in every once in a while so we can clarify. But your name, sir? Pete. Very nice to meet you. Thank you. And Mike, I think, can I summarize? The question is, are there any other agencies that you guys have to report to? Army Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife. Is that a fair question?
We have about 5 agencies that I work with. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Cal Fish and Wildlife, Regional Water Quality Control Board, Army Corps, actually 4, sorry.
And all those people are on board with your decision?
No, so for this transfer, we don't coordinate with the Army Corps of Engineers or Regional Water Quality Control Board. It's exempt under CEQA, the transfer, that's not by my, no, I've been there for 27 years, so I've been part of every water transfer from an environmental standpoint, mostly species related. So we coordinate with Cal Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. That's U.S. endangered species.
Just may add, so this is an operational decision except from CEQA. So there's no requirement to do any, I know there was a reference to an EIR or environmental review. It's an operational decision.
Well, you guys made a comment. The first thing was that you had the permission from CAL FIRE and that you had permission from Fish and Game.
We do not need permission from CAL FIRE.
You said you
did. Hey, hold on. I'm going to ask, I want to nip this in the bud. If you are going to speak, I'm going to ask you to leave the room. Because I don't think we're going to get through questions and answers. If we're not happy with the answers, let's listen to what the answers are and figure out what we want to do next. but I'm not gonna allow this opportunity to pass this up, so.
Yeah, we coordinate with Cal Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as it relates to regulated species. So regulated species. Regulated species are endangered species, ones that we can get a permit for otherwise to do the work. So in this case, there's nothing in Loveland Reservoir that's affected by the drawdown. So it is regulated. So none of the birds, none of the mammals are regulated as it relates to a drawdown. The one species that is downstream. So everything that I coordinate is stuff related to downstream. So we have operated every single water transfer I've been part of that completely avoids a federal or state take of a listed species. And that's how it operates. It's related to regulated, listed, endangered, threatened, or endangered species.
Hey, Mike, again, just to give everybody an opportunity, I'm gonna cut everybody off one question, let's work it around and then we'll go around. Kim?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Who wants to respond to the
No,
council?
Question
There was a question about getting permission from CAL FIRE.
Okay.
I'd like to clarify just because
Yes.
I know it's a topic of interest. So we, anticipating that we're gonna drain the reservoir, we talked to CAL FIRE about it and let them know. They told us there was no concern, there were other lakes nearby that they could take out. So we did coordinate with them. They have no authority really over what we do with the reservoir. It's a purely operational decision. So I just wanted to have that.
But it does clarify the comments that you reached out and you had these discussions with CAL FIRE. I think that gives us a little bit of an answer. And I'll come back around if we have time. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. On this side, Roger, questions, Darlene? I will.
Okay, yes, so a couple things. First of all, thank you to the public for coming tonight. The government is what you make it, and so thank you for your participation. Thank you to Sweetwater for coming and answering our questions and engaging. I do want to share something that I heard at the Board of Supervisors meeting from a very wise young woman named Erin Blake, who said, conflict nurtured well produces growth. And I'm hoping that this meeting can be a growth opportunity for both of us to develop a symbiotic relationship. That said, I am concerned about something I heard at one of your meetings, and I don't know if it was just somebody with a stream of consciousness or if it's something you're actively pursuing, but there was mention of creating a special district for Alpine and that we could pay for the repairs or environmental access. I believe I heard that. So I'm wondering, is that even really a real idea, or is that something
that may have been an idea that was talked about, but it isn't anything that the board is actively seeking.
I have received no direction from my board regarding that. We would not be able to create anything for you. That's something that will be up to your residents to create.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
And as far as the repairs go, I did mention that we're including in the budget an option to fix the trail access. There's a lot of erosion out of. Has any of you seen it after the?
Of course, we
budget came out? And it's gotten worse, right? So the idea that I have is that we might have to put a bridge to go from one side to get to the other side where the fishing dock is, right? That's not gonna be easy. Access is limited, so we'll be looking at those options. We'll likely have to do an environmental review for that special project, but it's something that we are planning on doing. When, I cannot give you a timeline at this point, because we don't know the extent of the repair. We don't have a budget yet. The fishing float is covered under our insurance policy, so we're working with them as a way to reestablish. So those are the two things I'd like to mention to the group. I know they're of interest. So we are planning on doing that and doing the proper work to reopen the trail.
I have more, but I'll come back to you and then we can negotiate.
Okay.
You said that it was an operational decision to drain the lake.
Transfer water, yes.
Transfer water.
Correct.
Who decides that? Your
I
board?
do.
You do.
I do. I'm the general manager. I am responsible for all operation decisions for the lake.
So we have one person to decide whether.
That is, the board hires me as the general manager and make the decisions.
But what I can say is the action that our general manager took was I think, consistent with our board policy. So.
I'll come back to you.
So you had stated earlier that you have about 200,000 folks that you serve water to and about 40,000 meters, correct? So on those 40,000 meters, in that monthly bill, is there, I guess, a portion of that bill that is set aside for any type of restoration, upkeep, maintenance, because obviously you guys don't go and do things on your own. You have to have money coming in somewhere, correct?
I can address some of that. So we do include a lot of the O&M related to the Loveland Recreation Program is handled by our staff. It's a watershed caretakers. I did get some information from our staff. Since 2006, we spent over $2.5 million on staff to maintain both Loveland and Sweetwater. I don't have the breakdown, but we have been committed to really maintaining the recreation program for many years, since I know there's a lot of discussion on the 1996 land swap. We did issue an easement to the Forest Service for access to fishing, tai chi, bird watching, and hiking.
So I guess what I'm asking again is, you had 40,000 years, somebody's paying a bill, 40,000 customers are paying a bill on 40,000 years. How much are you collecting a month, times how many months, times how much is all that? You said you only had $2.6 million that you took in for that, correct?
2.6 from.
2.6. Well, no, we've invested in the lake. But the way that it works is every year we program a budget.
Yes.
Okay, and if we have issues that we need to resolve, either at Loveland or Sweetwater or anywhere else in our district, it's typically budgeted, and our board of directors approves that budget. There is no specific line item in our customer's bill that says.
How much is that?
Our budget?
No, yeah, your budget each year. And the reason why what I'm getting to is that I've seen a lot on the news where all these taxes are paid, all this money comes in, there's like a giant pile of money, but because we've been in a drought for so long, then nobody's really fixed anything. And now that it's rained a bunch in the last 2 months, now a lot of things are starting to fail because they were never kept.
What is the specific question?
Yeah, let me do a for a test on this. Like for example, on our other utility bills, you might have a cost for the actual utility you're purchasing, water, electricity, and then a lot of times there's maybe a line item for maintenance and operations or infrastructure. Do you guys have that breakdown, or you guys have that? You don't unbundle your bill. I think that answers the question. So you don't have a, this is what you bought water this month, and this is what's just, okay.
We have a fixed charge, and we have the volumetric charge, which is basically at what you use.
Okay. That's fair. Just a quick bit, your fixed charge, do you know what it is per?
It's about probably 18% of the total bills.
Yeah, it's about $18 every 2 months.
Okay, fair enough. That answers the question.
And the rest is all measured based on.
Okay. I'll come back. Yeah, no, I got it. John?
So, I know that they've asked, a few of them asked about your plan, and you're saying that you can't really give a timetable, but what is the actual plan for?
John, the timetable for?
Like the timetable for the repairs and to get the lake back, the reservoir back to where it was at, like, if you don't have a timetable, like, what's your plan for it?
This reservoir is fed by runoff. I have no way to bring water and fill the lake. We just can't do it. It's not, other reservoirs in the county are reservoirs where the county water authority, that's the regional water provider, they have pipelines, and that's where they store the water. Then if the agencies need water, they can transfer the water. Loveland is completely isolated. It's the only way we can get water at Loveland is by rain. So you're asking me a question I cannot answer. So how fast it's going to fill? If it rains like it did a few weeks ago, it may fill up pretty fast. All I can say is, from the time it was drained to now, we're at 40%. So we have about 10,500 acre-feet of water. The capacity of this reservoir is 25,000 acre-feet. So we did get more rain, which put us at the level that where we are now. If I may address another issue with fish, we are looking at, maybe Pete, you want to talk about restocking, that we are planning on looking at that?
We're coordinating actively with California Wildlife on a restocking program, but it's highly dependent on the amount of water there and what the future holds. So there's also within the federal and state governments, there is two schools of thought. One is not reintroduce, so you all know they're all non-native fish. They're not native fish. And so non-native fish, non-endemic, not part of California's biota. There's conflict with, they're great for fishing, I love fish. So they're great for recreation, but they're not necessarily great for native species. And there's not a lot of animals that are really dependent at Loveland Reservoir on fish. There is a bird population there, but it fails in comparison to the bird population we have in Sweetwater. I've been studying these birds there for almost 3 decades. And so what we need to have is water and reliable. So they have a set limit and it's held, and there's operational decisions, there's ground decisions to that. And then the decision on do we release or not release. We're just gonna sit back and wait for them. We're gonna be party to it, but we have to sit back and for them to make a decision. Do we release native, non-native fish that could have an effect on the downstream environment that has endangered species, or do they just put recreation forward? That's not our decision. That's gonna be the decision of the federal and state government. From there, we're behind it. So we're developing a budget to fuel whatever restocking plan, and then there's the decision on how we put the fish. The fish have to go in as a bait fish first, give about a year or two for that stocks to build up, then the game fish behind it. So we're actively working with them. There's some unknowns, mainly the water.
And I'm going to take us out of order. I'll come to Mary because this is related. You described what might be, this was a question we had, so I want to make sure to get it in. Is there going to be a habitat restoration plan, or is there any habitat restoration plan in the works for specific to Loveland?
So habitat, meaning what habitat?
I actually thought about that too. There's probably 2 different habitat restorations. So specifically, you were on fish. Is there a habitat restoration? You kind of described
Well,
something.
the aquatic habitat is the water, right?
Yeah.
We need the waters to return, and then we need them to return and know that they're going to be reliable enough to then put fish back. Okay? The other habitats that I've heard the story about in the riparian lab, I'm a specialist in riparian habitats, and we still zero in on it. The habitats where we have riparian habitat at Sweetwater Loveland Reservoir, they're perfectly intact. They're all in the back part of the lake where Peterson and Sweetwater come together at confluence. They're in great shape. They're actually looking extremely healthy with the amount of volume coming in right now. So arroyo toads, these little areas should do extremely well in that part of the lake this year. Those willows and whatever.
Last one with the habitat restoration plan, flora and fauna. So, is there any habitat restoration plan? And it's just a question, maybe there isn't. Is there any habitat restoration plan for like the native species of plants and not wildlife?
So the lake doesn't, there is a rim of cattails, and we make that comment, that happens dependent on the level of the lake. And so the level of the lake, if it falls for a while, the cattail rim establishes those are native. But then it drops because of evaporation or release, and then they dry up and basically desiccate. And then they start another rim. So those cattails, they're not natives. They're natives, but they're not like rare or sensitive or anything like that. They're going to be depending on what that water level is. Nobody call it that on their own. They're looking need for us to do anything. So we haven't lost a lot of like terrestrial flora habitat. Obviously, we've lost a lot of habitat.
That answers the question. Mary?
Well, I have several questions about your whole system parts, protected ones and not protected ones, but more to the point, Mr. Quintero, as general manager, will you be the person that makes an operational decision on if the reservoir will be restored or brought back, or will you be the one with the timeline?
Well, I can't restore the water, the nature of it. I can't bring water to the reservoir.
Well, but since you were the one that let it go, when it starts refilling.
I did mention that we have enough water at Sweetwater for about 2 years. That's the reality. No, I understand that both reservoirs work together.
Right.
We transfer water when we need it. So based on the levels that we have as of this point, we have a 2-year supply at Sweetwater. That's all I know. What's going to happen 2 years from now?
But I guess my question is because everybody keeps saying everything's an operational decision, and if you're the general manager, it kind of ends up on your desk. And you're one that gets the information and makes the decision and the board votes. So,
What's the question?
But let me, Mayor, can I jump in, just again for test for understanding? What I'm hearing is the questions have been, what are the plans for restoration? And I think specific to, let's say, rising of water, the answer they're giving is there's enough water in Sweetwater that you have no plans to do transfers for up to 2 years.
They're flowing right now.
Hold on,
Right now.
sir, please.
I don't understand.
Is the answer that right now you don't plan a water transfer for the next 2 years?
We do not.
Okay.
And we have sufficient water, seawater. So yes, 2 years is a reasonable timeframe. If it continues raining, then Sweetwater Reservoir gets drawn up. Then that timeline gets long.
They're releasing.
I understand. Sir, I will ask, please, that is, if you have questions, if not, there is a door, and I'll ask you to leave.
As we speak, I'm on the water.
Respect goes 2 ways, please. Angie.
Yes. My question is about the land grant deal. Did you make assurances or some sort of commitment at that time regarding the shoreline and accessibility?
Well, a couple of things. Well, the valve right now at Loveland is closed out of the reservoir. There's no water being transferred. It's all natural runoff. So the valve is closed. To answer your question, there was a land swap. We gave an easement to the Forest Service. The Forest Service, it allows access, but there's no water rights conveyed as part of this easement. There's nowhere that it says that we were committed to keeping the water at a certain level, basically giving up water rights for the purposes identified in the easement. It's just not the case.
So you're in complete compliance with everything regarding the land grant deal?
The access, I mean, right now it's closed because of safety, but if that trail is open, then that's the commitment, to have access to these activities out on an easement. It's like, you guarantee bird watching, but, I mean, you can bird watch, but that doesn't mean that when you go there, you're gonna bird.
And can I jump in, because this is important,
Right.
just to get clarification. What is the status of access? Access right now is closed.
Right now it's closed because of the erosion. There's about 12 to 15-foot cliffs, and we don't want anyone getting injured. And this is the repair that we were talking about in relation to your comment. But we're looking at trying to repair that trail so we can open access.
Because I think it was another one that I think would be important, at least answer maybe some steps of working together. Are you guys open to restoring access to the parking lot for other reasons? I'm just going to ask, and you don't have to answer, but I'm saying, would there be ways to at least restore access to the parking lot, even if the trails were closed because they're unsafe?
We can certainly look at that. The challenge is that if we open the parking lot, you can access the trail, right? So we can look at options to fence that off for now, for the time being, and having the parking lot open. Victor, you have any thoughts on that, Victor, or any comments on?
No, we can talk about that. We can talk about that at a later date.
Okay. So it's something that we're open to discussion.
Okay. I'll come to you, but I'm going to come to Darlene first. She can pass on her.
I'm wondering if, and thank you very much for coming. I know this has been a difficult process, but we very much appreciate you being here. I'm wondering if Sweetwater Authority communicated with their ratepayers about the draining and consequences to Loveland, especially since it was done on their behalf.
We send notices to residents downstream that we were doing this. We did issue press releases. So, yep. It was, I made comments at one of our public meetings about it. So, I would say yes.
All right, and so again, I'll come back around. Mike?
Yes. There was a lot of comments about sand mining, that you folks were dropping the water level so that you could start the sand mining. Would you tell us about that and what your intent is so the folks here will know that this is something going to happen or not going to happen or what?
If I may, Chair, I honestly had a hard time following that discussion. I'm sorry? I had a hard time following that discussion because
Well, there was a lot of comments, in fact.
I understand their
Okay.
comments, their comments. Are you talking about lowering the level of Loveland to sand mine Loveland? If
Well,
that-
that's kind of what I was catching from the folks here in the audience, is they were concerned about the fact that.
Maybe, let's try it. Do you guys have plans for sand mining at Loveland?
No,
Do you
And,
have
and
plans?
let me clarify,
Fair.
the proposed project at Singing Hills, we've actually issued letters that we have concerns about that particular project.
Cottonwood?
Yes, I mean, that's Cottonwood, I'm sorry.
We're not affiliated with that project.
Fair enough. And so I asked, do you have plans to do sand mining? Have you guys, have you conducted any exploratory research into sand mining at Loveland?
We've looked at a restoration project and what that might entail, but our first priority is Sweetwater, because we have growth of algae and other things like that, so we're looking at ways that we can enhance the quality of the reservoir and make the water safer and cleaner.
So you have explored sand mining in Sweetwater?
Yeah.
Have you done any research or exploration of the viability of sand mining at Loveland?
Very preliminary, just basically aerial type pictures.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll give you, because I jumped in and I took your question, but I want to make sure we got it clear.
Yeah,
Okay.
one point. So the whole concept when I was hearing this evening is you're dropping the water level for the ratepayers to make sure that you're having water. But also there were some issues about the repair of the dam. Has that the biggest reason why you're dropping the water level at Loveland?
No, let me offer this. If that were the case, we would have just kept the valve open, right? Now we're at 40%. We've gone from 0 to 40% in about 3 months. We are looking at replacing that valve. We have a consultant that is an accurate statement. GDI is the consultant. We're looking at fixing the stairs on where the valve house is, on the downstream side of the valve. There's some structural issues with those stairs. So we are looking at repairing them, making those repairs. I mean, this dam was constructed in the mid-1940s. It's almost 80 years old. And as any facility, we have to look at it and make any repairs if needed. So the consultant is still doing an assessment as to what options we have to replace that valve. So we're actually waiting for that recommendation and then coordinate with the regulators, Division of Safety of Dams. Once we have that, then we can proceed with that repair.
Roger? Charlene, I'll jump you one time, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, yeah, so this is such a multifaceted, we have environmental justice, public safety, fiscal stewardship, and I'll touch on that. I did public records request, and I'm very concerned about that first drawdown, that you did not just delay it until the ground was wet. And I know we don't have magic balls to see when it's going to rain exactly, but we know in December we generally get rain. So by delaying that, you could have prevented 47% water loss. And as a frame of context, during the second drawdown for the public records request, they only lost 5% because the ground was already wet. So 47% versus 5%. So is there a way to, from now on, only do drawdowns during wet periods? And then also, at the end of the day, people want a government that honors its commitments. So both to stewardship and then also to access.
I can address, I'll just start with, and then I know Pete has some comments. So it was November 15, we were down to 4,000 acre feet at Sweetwater. We can't treat anything below 3,600. So we had 400 acre feet of water that we can use. Okay? If I know November 15 that we're gonna get the series of storms that we got a month later, things would have been different, but I did not know that. Okay? I know November 15, there was no idea that we're going to get a series of atmospheric layers. So yes, we needed the water at Sweetwater Reservoir. Now, you know, we got a lot of rain, so the water doesn't care where it comes from when it saturates the soil. So that's why a lot of it, yes, was percolated down, but then the further runoff was not lost to the soil. So we ended up with, you know, really a situation where we transferred the water that was needed. And Pete, do you have a
Yeah, obviously, well, I add to that, and also the timing. The percentages, you pay one way or the other, right? The groundwater has to be recharged for it to skip off the surface. So if we pay early in the fall release, you know, and you only get, and your percentages are correct, you know, 40%, we only get 40% of Sweetwater. And later, because of what we did and additional rainfall, the ground basin is charged, groundwater basin is charged, so it skips off the surface and we get 95, and that's really good, but it's not, it's, you pay one way or the other. The groundwater basin has got to be charged every time. And
Okay.
so, but that's in timing, the reason why we did a November release is because we have a species called a royal toad. Federally listed since the early 90s, and we have to do a complete avoidance protocol. We have been working cooperatively with USGS, Biological Resource Division, since early 2000s. We had an original assessment with them, we did an updated assessment in 2021, and with new data, right, there's code just was listed in the mid-90s, and so there's a lot more information, and the information to completely avoid a royal toad without a take permit is to have a release started and completed by December 31st. And so yes, that puts us in a dry riverbed situation sometimes. The water was the most important thing to gather, and we had no crystal ball. And so that's why, you know, you pay later, pay upfront, whatever it is in terms of water.
Okay, and I just want to be really clear on my ask. This is me as a community member. My ask would be to have a permanent working symbiotic relationship with you, that we keep the level at 30%. I think that's a happy medium, that we repair the fishing float and access, and that we open the parking lot and upper trail for access. And that would be my ask. I'm not sure.
All right. Go ahead, Darren.
Okay, so I just have a question. I'm reading the sign that is at Loveland. It's called Loveland Reservoir Fishing Program, owned and operated by Sweetwater Authority. And in that sign, it says, to protect and preserve water quality and natural habitat, Sweetwater Authority and the U.S. Forest Service established a unique partnership to promote public fishing access in exchange for a parcel of land near the reservoir previously owned by the U.S. government. Sweetwater Authority provided land near Descanso to the National Forest System. This exchange increased natural habitat and forest lands available to San Diego County and Southern California residents and wildlife. At the same time, Sweetwater Authority improved public fishing access at Loveland Reservoir. Fishing activities at Loveland are designed to protect public health and benefit the community. Activities are monitored by Sweetwater Authority and USDA Forest Service personnel. So in a way, I think my question would be, did your draining of Loveland go against this promise that you made based on this signage that you placed there at the reservoir?
The answer is, Ms. Sign, that's not the direction I'm receiving from really the board. So I really have not much to offer in terms of that. I look at getting the water to our customers. That's the priority. That's what I was hired for. And that's what.
So I guess my question then would be, I see this as binding, and I hope that you'll look into and do research on this promise or commitment that was made with the land swap.
It's not binding.
Colby.
Earlier you stated that 50% of you get water from desalination. Can you break down where you get your water? We all know Loveland supplies.
Yeah.
The breakdown of how you.
Yeah. So our customers use on average 17,000 acre feet per year. So just for reference, 1 acre foot provides water for a year. That's kind of 1 acre foot is 325,000 gallons, right? About 6,200, a little bit more, maybe 6,500 comes from a Reynolds plant. So we have access to the San Diego Formation. That's a salty aquifer. It's brackish. So we have to put that through a very large reverse osmosis plant. So that's called a Reynolds desalination plant. About 1,500 acre feet of water comes from what we call the National City wells. And these are wells that actually access fresh water. So below the San Diego Formation, there's a pocket of fresh water that is being drawn through National City wells. So So that puts us at about 6,500, at about 8,000. So the other 9,000 acre-feet of water needs to come from our reservoirs. Right? So when that water is not there, we have to buy water from the county water. So I did mention the cost. It's about 12, 13 times more expensive to buy water from the county water. So we always favor our local sources. And that's, we have no way. It's impossible for us to supply 100% of our water from that. It just, in fact, there's some customers that can only get water from Sweetwater. They can't even get fed from the Saudi. So our 3 water sources, local water sources, we all work in tandem, we try to maximize them. And then we have access to a 4th source, which is imported water from the County Water Authority that's coming from all the way from the Colorado River or from the Bay Delta through metropolitan areas. So that is why that water is so expensive. This is going to another agency, huge infrastructure, huge O&M costs for the County Water Authority, huge investments. So that makes that water way more.
Okay, so.
Go ahead. I want to go ahead.
So Loveland was down to Deadpool. You rely on that percentage-wise?
Well, it was transferred, yeah. I mean,
A lot.
that chart shows you the transfers, how often they are. I mean, that's the.
Not worried about transfers, I'm worried about percentage you guys rely on.
Well, there's some endangered species. It's not that right now, tomorrow, we're gonna open the valve and transfer water. There's restrictions. So we do this, we only do this in a certain, very narrow time.
I understand Loveland, Sweetwater was down. What happens when Sweetwater goes down, Loveland's dry?
Well, that is
You guys got lucky 'cause it just has
a nightmare scenario.
the water.
That is a nightmare.
Then we call the county water authority.
Right.
That's what we do.
Would you give us one more question at least? All right. Mary Kay, I at least cut through your last question, so I want to give you an opportunity. Do you have any questions? I want to give you an opportunity because the last question I know wasn't completely answered, but it was answered. Okay. Go ahead, John.
You said that water rights wasn't, with the land swap, it didn't give water rights, it was just access to the shoreline. But how low does the reservoir have to be for you to consider that there's still a shoreline? But what would you consider if there's a shoreline? Obviously, there's got to be some water, right?
Just to kind of reiterate, because there are a couple things. The answer is right now, based on the amount of water in Sweetwater Reservoir, you shouldn't have any reason, or you said, hey, that would be enough water for up to 2 years. Is it fair to say that you're, based on that, there's unlikely or you're not planning on doing any draws for the next 2 years?
I don't see a reason why we would do that.
And then
There's no plan for it.
Yes,
so
that's right. The status of the public access right now is closed, but you guys, and you're doing a feasibility study to improve the trails, or restore the trails, or to restore access. Okay.
There is a lot of erosion. I am not sure we could fill that. It's just too big of an area. So we may be having to look at other options such as putting it. Okay. To get from, where the trail is to the other side where the fishing pool is.
Last, I want to at least close on, I appreciate you guys coming out. I think obviously you heard from the community. I want to say from the group, just in overall, Loveland is listed as part of our community plan as far as public recreation and access. I think it is critical that your commitment to keeping that access open and restoring that access is critical. I think the fire issues that were discussed, as far as not only being able to be used as a place to draw from water, but also as a natural barrier, I can express, and I'll express on behalf of the community, is obviously very important. And I don't really have anything other than to say, I appreciate you guys coming out. I hope we can continue to have a dialogue, because I think we do have the potential to see, is there ways that we can work together? We've heard some offers of volunteer, but I'm more interested in making sure, obviously, that we can reopen up public access as soon as possible, because that is outlined, at least in the easement. So please, keep us updated on that. And you guys want to, I give you the opportunity, you want to make any final comments?
Well, I just want to thank everyone. I know that, there's folks that think that there's an ulterior motive here. We're just trying to operate a water district and provide water to our customers and use our facilities to do that. We do want to work with the community. We want to make sure that we, to the extent possible, but we have to be very frank. If there is major construction work that needs to be done to, cross that gorge, that will be under environmental, review. So those things take time. But we're going to try to figure out which way. And again, our board is committed ratepayer dollars to fix that. And, I think that we will do what we can to uphold, the commitments that were made. And, we will keep that line of communication open.
Thank you. So obviously, they expressed their timing was going to end, that's why I wanted to make sure we ended up. We have an opportunity to appreciate it. We have an opportunity.